Okay. Okay, we should be good now. All right. Okay, so again, thanks everyone for being here. I'm going to share my screen and we will we'll get started here. So the idea for today is to kind of give a um, high-level overview of H5P as a learning technology and as a tool that we have available to us as instructors, um, either through our LMS or building outside of that. So I'm going to take you through this book that I built. This is kind of intended to be sort of our guide through this session, and after this development session is over, I'll have a link to where you can access this information on, and you can kind of go at your own pace and kind of look at what the possibilities are. Uh, so again, just wanted to give an overview of this. If you've never used H5P before, or if you've used it before, I think this lesson will pertain to you, and hopefully you'll get something out of it. We do have actual examples that you can interact with in this lesson that we've used, and whether it's I've built them or other instructional designers or even faculty have built these. So we've done some really neat things. Kind of going through what we're going to cover. We should be going about an hour for this session. If not, we'll try to get some conversations going behind what you use it for, some ideas that you've heard of. So we're going to get started. We'll create a workflow for building these activities, and I want to kind of walk you through some of the widely used content types, and so you can kind of determine which one is the right type for your purposes. Again, it's all based on your learning objectives and goals. We're going to look at enhancing these activities with images and some of the built-in and external tools. And then we'll kind of look at best practices that exist on the internet and h5p.org website. So let's just kind of get into what H5P is and what it is not. So it's just really it's a free open source browser based. That's really the essence of what it is. It's a H5P. It stands for HTML5 package. So it's really a lot of libraries that are combined into a package, which it can be read by an LMS, or there's a plugin for WordPress, so you can put these on a personal website, or you can there's support for just about any LMS out there. It is, like I say, it's free and open source. At this link, I'm gonna include this link later. I know accessibility is a big topic right now, and we're always having to look at that, and H5P is no exception. We really need to just pay attention. So really, this will take you to an updated list of the content types that have been tested with screen readers like NVDA and JAWS, and there's browser support and whether or not that exists. So you can kind of pick your contents a little more carefully. So I say it's a middle ground authoring tool, and I mean, and I've got a diagram here that will hopefully clear that up a little bit more. But it is kind of somewhere between where PowerPoint lies and the high end authoring tools like Adobe Captivate or Articulate Storyline. It's best for this. So I'm using the term micro learning. I mean, that's kind of a buzzword we're using these days. Just in terms of bite-sized pieces that students can just, if they're riding home on the subway or the bus, or we don't have subways around here. If you're riding on whatever you have, if you don't have a lot of time, you can just go through and do a quick lesson, answer some questions. It's really good for those standalone interactions that can teach and assess really in one shot there. So, and it's really lightweight and easy to use. It's kind of tedious, but it really is it's easy to get started with it. What H5P is not, again, so this particular lesson that you're looking at is called an interactive book. And while it has a lot of capability to put a lot of content in and a lot of different types of interaction and presenting of multimedia, it also takes a lot of development time, and it takes just a lot of tracking of how many interactions you have. So just in terms of what you might get from a particular storyline where you can have PowerPoint, and then you can have triggers and layers and a lot of all these kind of JavaScript uh, considerations that those more expensive programs have. Uh, uh, One thing that I think is a positive is it is not AI powered. It is not. There's no kind of there's no shoehorning in of these AI tools or models. So for a free tool, I think that's kind of a good thing. So as far as the analytics, I mean, there are a lot of H5Ps are auto graded, and they report to the grade book just fine. But in some cases, you might be looking for like deeper analytics about how long a student is spent with an activity, or what. So let's just have some more information about that. So it's really just kind of basic completion tracking. And then finally, the complex simulation. So you can really go as far down the rabbit hole as you want with this one. But branching scenarios, it's just a lot of work. And if you have time for that kind of development, and you're motivated to do that, it can be handy. But I know we're all fighting the clock especially when it comes to getting our content into the LMS, getting it accessible, and all the other things we have to do as instructors. So I kind of put together this. I was thinking about the spectrum of where is, if you've all of us have used PowerPoint, but probably none of us have used articulate storyline. So where does H5P fall in this? So I asked ChatGPT to kind of make me a chart. And so it plotted some points on and gave me the X and Y. So that was helpful. So just in terms of where we are with the ease of use and the low interactivity. So PowerPoint is basically just static slides that sort of are passive by and large. Moodle has some more. I'm using Moodle. My courses, it's kind of the same thing. There's some more interactivity in that you can add lessons and books and that kind of thing. So and I think H5P is right there in the middle, being that there are a lot of features involved with it, and there's a lot of high interactivity. So, and this is all subjective. I just kind of placed these random. There's not a lot of hard science behind this. It was just kind of my opinion about where. And of course, there are a ton of other authoring tools out there. But these are the ones that we use mainly here. So that's kind of a just a basic introduction to what H5P is, and so we'll get into how you can get started with this. It's really easy to get started. I mean, that's usually the hardest part of some authoring tools, and it's just what do you do to get started. And so I think just depending on what your needs are and your preferences, there are two options, and I'm going to give you these two just so you can kind of decide for yourself which is the best for you. You can author the content directly in my courses, and that is, of course, the easiest way. So you see the black H5P interactive content icon that will take you directly to the editor, and you can set up all your grade schema. You can set the category, the grade to pass, and you can kind of have it like in a turnkey right there. And that's a really popular one with a lot of instructors. Another way is to work offline. I know if you're kind of a software nerd like me, and you're always looking for, well, how can I utilize my graphics card, or how can I save my files locally so I can back them up? There's a lot of advantages to the desktop editor. And that's what I used to build this particular exercise lesson, whatever. So, but virtually they do this, they accomplish the same thing. The interface is the same, but it's just a matter of where you like to work. Plus there's with the desktop editor, you can actually export the files for the web if you wanted to put them on like a WordPress site, or transfer them to another LMS. SCORM is an older learning standard. Don't worry too much about that. I can explain if you wanted to talk about it, but it's for our purposes today, we'll just focus on how can we start creating some stuff. So I think the important thing to remember, and you can get there either way. Blue is upload the file that you've created offline, and black will take you to the editor. So kind of the idea behind this is that you just go and you add an activity, and then I've favorited the H5P interactive content here, and this is the next page. You'll be able to see the description, and as you scroll down, this is you'll have all your content types, and you can just start creating really quickly. And then put down, and so as we get down here are the standard settings that you can customize there for to report to your gradebook. Okay, any questions so far? I'm not I'm not watching the chat. Let's see, is anyone make it a little larger? Yeah, sure. Is that all right? How's that, Dan? Can you is that better? Okay, so I'm going to move on to how you can start to choose your what kind of content is best for your instructional material. So I was listening to a podcast this morning about virtual reality and augmented reality and a lot of the educational technologies that we have available to us. And I hadn't heard about Clark Quinn before, but he's got some really great books and really great ideas about how to use educational technologies more effectively, and what is how much time are you willing to put in to what your outcome is, and how do you match those up closely. So I'll say, and which aspect is most important when choosing an H5P content type. And of course, the answer is going to be learning objectives, right? I mean, that's kind of what we're always looking at, no matter what we shouldn't, everything we do through the LMS should go through that lens of our learning objective. So so here we go. That was your first interaction. So feel free to, when you go do this self-paced, you can kind of play around with this and choose the wrong answer if you want. It's fairly low stakes. So selecting that right content type. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so if I zoom in too much, okay, so I want to take you through a few content types that we have. Again, these have been built for other courses. We've had other instructional designers who built some of these. So basically, we can say micro learning or an assessment, or it can be some of both. This is this is the timeline that I built for it was an AI course, and really what it is, it's just completely interactive to where you can you can input your years of that an event happened, and then you can describe what that is, and you can have a lot of different types of multimedia here, just from images. You can put in pictures in the timeline, and this will go directly in your course, or it can fit inside of a larger content type like this, like an interactive book. So you have different ways of interacting with this. You can zoom way out or zoom way in. There's also the navigation here on the right, and then you can also use the arrow key. So that's part of the accessibility affordances that we have. So the timeline, very cool interactive thing if you wanted to start using that. The drag and drop, one of our most popular ones. This came from a think it was a CIS 110 class, where there was the section on Microsoft Word. So, really, really easy to get around. So, if you were to fill this out, let's see what we got here. We got contact info, and then what's next? I think we got the summary and goals, and then the education experience. I think if I can remember how to do this, skills, and then awards and achievements. So let me check what I did here. Okay, good. Got them all right. And this works fairly well on mobile devices. It does respond to touch. If I haven't really heard of anything just crashing and burning when someone accesses H5P on a phone, other than just maybe the general woes that they might have using an RLMS with a phone in general. But that's another conversation. So anyway, we're talking about that's kind of more of a sorting activity. And so if you wanted to say, hey, this is these steps need to be put in order, to kind of look at where we are here. So when I was studying for my A plus, I made several of these interactives just to help me study. And well, I could have just studied the thing and learned it, but I tend to make everything more difficult than it needs to be. So, but that's my cross to bear. So anyway, so you can identify this is sort of how this goes, and I'll just put these in here randomly, and we'll have kind of and then we'll see what happens when you get nothing correct. And so in this case, I got one right, but there were 0 points awarded. So there's little things like this. You could actually have this to where each step of the drag and drop is a point, or you can just have the whole thing worth 1 point. So it's if you're interested in building something like this, let us help you. If you need to, if you have a very specific thing that you want to do with it, we can probably figure out how to do it. So this is actually this is an image slider. So I didn't put this many drag and drops in this interactive, but I want to show you, kind of showcase some of the other examples that we have. So this is a you can tell what's supposed to be done here, just separating the nouns and verbs and adjectives. For the Bio 168 course, this was a drag and drop that Kevin made. I guess it was a year or so, maybe a little over a year, about the skin models. And there's a lot of these. One for basically every system of the body, whether it's muscular, nervous system, a lot of anything from anatomy. So what I'm doing here, I just took a screenshot of the activity itself, and then I inserted an image slider, which allows you to. We'll get into that in the next section here about how to use images in this. And finally, the course presentation. So this one is this one's a bear. So the course presentation is probably the most complex of them all, but it probably has the most functionality and the most interactivity of them all. I was really kind of looking for a solution to, well, how do you know what to do if you have like a PDF, or if you have a PowerPoint that you really want to put some questions into, how do you know what content type to use? So I just put in a lot of I thought, well, maybe we can build this thing like a sort of like a retro game and sort of like an app. So really it's slide based. The design is completely in your court. So that puts a lot of the accessibility constraints right back on you, because you're dealing with a blank slide here. And so really, so feel free to just explore this as you want to. It's just a little bit of intended to be just lighthearted way of kind of picking out what works best for you and where you should start based on your experience with it. So that's a course presentation. You can see they're slide based, and then you can put anchors within each one of these tabs. And so, like for games, it will take you to uh, the these are all the games that are offered by H5P. So it's kind of neat. So, and then you click on like a crossword, it'll show you that there's a description, there's an ideas for use, and then kind of this hearts system shows you, how difficult it would be to put together. And then this blue thing here, that's a link out to an actual example. So obviously course presentations don't need to be anywhere near this elaborate. I just kind of wanted to show you what's possible, because with course presentations, you can add a lot of things. So you can have a static slide, and then the next slide could be my questions or
I have a question.
okay.
Yeah, I do have a question for you. Can I interrupt?
Yes, yeah. Please.
Yeah, okay. So I see that the bingo game, immediately to the next to that, the slide, just slide back.
Hmm.
So you see where it says bingo game?
Hmm.
It seems like there's only one person controlling the entire class, or do you have two or three different sets? How would students go to write it in?
Oh, well,
Because I'll be using Pear Doc a lot. So I'm wondering how would I apply that to that?
so this is not something that you would actually fill in as a bingo card. It really is just a matter of, let me go to the example here. So when you look at,
Walk away.
I apologize. That must be the wrong link. Sorry about that. So really,
Oh,
what
that's fine.
they will see is a board right in front of them, and they can click what the board. It's completely interactive. Um, I've got to check that link. I'm sorry about that. Uh, so does that make sense? So they when they click on the activity, they'll see a board in front of them, and then they can click on each one of those. So it's really kind of intended to be more of a synchronous thing. If you
So is that independent work essentially?
no, it wouldn't be
Do you know what I mean?
this would be a synchronous thing. So if you're like in person or in a workshop, you could you'd have that ability to just kind of yell bingo. So it's not a collaborative thing. And it's not adaptive. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Seems good. Yeah, I was just thinking, just wondering how it works. That's all. That's fine. Thank you.
I'm sorry about my link. It was so it's if you can go, I have a link for h5p.org at the end of this. So if you wanted to head over there and look at that example, uh, it'll make a lot more sense how that is. So uh,
Yeah, I was just wondering.
okay, cool. Um, Yeah. So, any other questions? I think this is kind of the most important part of this session, and obviously there are so many other types. One thing I did not mention is the interactive video, uh, which hopefully is self-explanatory, but that is by far the most popular H5P content we have. Really, because you can have a YouTube video, and I didn't put an example in here because it kind of makes sense what you do. I mean, you can import a YouTube video and then have the question have the video pause to where the student answers a question, and then it moves on whenever they answer it. And you can even have it set to go back to a certain space, or and put in other types of interactives in there. So we have a lot of use of interactive video here, and really in terms of what the rest of the world uses, that is that's pretty much it. Yeah. So I see in the chat do we have another game example? Um, I have other games that I've built for other courses. I don't have them in this content type. So one thing about the interactive book, and they don't, it's not an all-in-one thing. So within this interactive book, I couldn't actually put a bingo game. That has to be a standalone thing. But memory games are really kind of fun just to have in your course. It wouldn't really affect anything. It wouldn't add to the course hours, but it does um, just give a little bit of a chance for the students to practice. So All right, let me move on over to the enhanced part of it. So we this is really one of my favorite parts of H5P. I love creating multiple choice questions and true falses, but really this is the one that makes it stand out for me because this is where the learning curve really starts to even out, and it gets really easy because you have chances to add your images, and you have control over the alt text and the hover text, and so making them accessible and easy to use is pretty easy. So I'll go through some of these types here. So image collage, it's straight ahead. There's it's good for storytelling. And this is just one layout. These are three images, and there's no relation to these. These were just, I think, some mid-journey images I had on my computer. So I just kind of put them in this collage. But you can fit up to 6 images into one layout, and there's I think if you've used Facebook or any of those, if you've imported multiple pictures, you can put them in different layouts and configurations. So image collage is a good one. Image hotspots. This is I'm sure this is one we've all used before. So uh, last year or maybe a year before, I did a session on prompt engineering and for Chat GPT and generative AI tools. And so we talked about the generative AI. I call it the AI iceberg. Actually, that was clever, if I can say so myself. But anyway, so we just kind of looked at, well, what is that, the tip of the iceberg? And so here we can put you can put text in here, and you can actually use images and videos within these hotspots. I just didn't I didn't do that with these, but so you have choices of media that you can use ChatGPT with prompting, and as you get further down, just anywhere you can put a plus here on an image. So as we're going through these, I encourage you just to kind of think about your own course and what's a part of the course that you wish that students could practice more. What's a chance that they could really just look at this stuff and interact with it and come away kind of feeling like they've done something and lean forward into it. So the slider, you saw that earlier. It's really just a matter of scrolling through the images. There's not much to that, kind of low tech. The Agamotto, I wish I could have put it into this presentation. I have a video down here that kind of shows how it works, but the image blender idea, so it's the idea is you use multiple images and you can scroll through that. In this case here, there was just an empty map, and so as you scroll through, sound off. As you scroll through, you can start to see now. Okay, now our borders have shown up, and now final image. Now the rivers are showing up. So you can kind of see there are 3 different images, and each image presents more information every time you scroll through. So it's really really handy for anything that you want to scaffold learning and just sort of give the information a little bit at a time so that they can see any changes that over time. Or another example is the zoom. So this has probably 8 or 10 images. So basically the idea here is they take an image of whatever this is, and here's I'll zoom in every time. So that as by the time you get to the end, you have maybe you zoom in 20% each time, and then you can zoom back out, and the student has full control over that slider. So Agamotto tool, very, very neat content type there. So finally, we're going to go into the image juxtaposition, and I'm going to climb out of this just a second because I have a demo in my test course here. So let me hop out of here and go to the image tools. So show you what the juxtaposition is. So you can see what we have a black and white color comparison. And so I put this in the course as a label. So it's sitting there very easy to interact with. And hopefully this is clear what this line does to where, you can move and show pictures over time, before and after pictures. Uh, I've seen a lot of these since Lean, really showing just before and after pictures of what of what an area looked like. And so this is a one way to accomplish that. If you have anytime you need to compare two things together. Another one I saw, there was an art restoration that was it was a big debacle here. So someone had best of intentions. They were going to take this painting home, and it was in Spain. They were going to take this home and restore it. And well, this is what happened. So it became kind of this, well, this is definitely a before and after. So just another use case of how to use the juxtaposition. So and then finally, I won't get into this too much, but you can actually put in 360-degree images as part of what they call a virtual tour. So it works a lot like an image hotspot in that you can have questions put in. If you have, see, this is not an actual 360-degree image. It's just kind of a panoramic, like a 180, but you can still pan around and see. So anything that you can think about that someone could use a wide image and then have a lot of things to interact with within that. So such as videos and just kind of different questions that you can go through. Okay, get back up to my content. Okay, any questions so far?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd like that one part talking about that 360 visual tour. Can you down that from the website, or is that just something we would have to record and then upload for an event? Like if we were using like a sign language teaching history class or something. So if we wanted to do like the Baltimore, says it right there. Like, could we have that? How would we do that? So just to help me later on, if you could.
That's a good question.
Wondering.
I have not played with that very much. Just the one thing I have done is I've taken my phone and moved it to panorama mode, and I just made a really wide image, and then you could put that. So it's not an actual 360-degree image, so you don't need a special camera for any of this. But I think it really would work with just about any image. But if you can have the wider 180-degree viewing angle, then you'll be able to really, it will treat it kind of like a 360-degree image. And that you can still act like,
Yeah, it's better than it's something.
Yeah. So that's what I've done before. Now, again, I haven't used this effectively in a course, or haven't built one specifically for someone, but I'm always willing to break something if we need. So just let us know. We'll be happy to kick the tires on something and try it.
Yeah. I've seen online that you can do those virtual tours and you have to download things, but I just wasn't really sure. If I wanted to stand there and use sign language and sign like in a media room or something, like what ideas we could do, and maybe I'll email you some ideas and we can figure it out from there.
Sure. Yeah. And this
maybe if we have time to figure out something like, or some better options.
Sure. And the as far as the image itself, it's going to be static.
Thanks.
And then you can put your own video in there if you as one of those hotspots. That idea. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that was about it with the enhancing. Okay. So we'll move on over to the So kind of some of the resources, I'm kind of wrapping it up here. So there's a lot more to talk about, but I didn't want to overload because there's a lot of, we could get into the weeds about how to configure these things individually, but kind of, it's sort of the next step here is just to move on and just try it yourself and let us help out how we can let us know how we can help. So some of the resources that we have at h5p.org, that's kind of the nucleus of everything. It's a very small development team. There's I think there's only about five or so people on this core development team. So there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. There's a lot of feature requests, a lot of wish lists that things have. So in terms of a movement on a technology, it's, you know, just kind of expected to be what it is for a long time. There's not a whole lot of updates that come down. Not to mention Brightspace, D2L, the LMS, they just bought H5P. They bought the whole core group. So, and I don't see anything changing with that. We're still going to have access to this plugin, and it's still going to be free and open source, but hopefully we'll have a little bit more support with the just knowing what the development timeline is, as far as, you know, what are we getting a new authoring tool, what's happening with the there's a whole community thing out there, and the idea of open educational resources is a really popular thing, but it's really hard to determine what the quality of those are going to be. So it's always a trade-off. So so as far as the accessibility list, I would recommend visiting this. I'll show you again what that looks like. So as I was saying earlier, here's the content type and whether or not it's accessible, and maintained by the core team. That's probably one of the more important ones because they have developers all over the world, and they will build certain content types and they'll check for accessibility and then send it out to the core team. So if you're, even though there are a lot of different content types here, just be aware of which one you're using. Like the timeline tool, does it work with screen readers? I'm not 100% sure. When I check it with NVDA, it finds most of the other content types that work just fine. So just keep that in mind. Learnful is a Canadian website where you can look for a lot of different types of OER activities. Again, if you're going to kind of use any of these, I would take it with a grain of salt, because anyone can just these aren't curated, in other words. So if you find something that is relevant to you or your course, just make sure that you're really vetting these out. So, but it's just quite a few resources in there. And finally, Lumi.education. That's where you can download that editor. So just in terms of like what I would do from this moment on, is really don't do anything that you're not comfortable with doing. Like I said, the interactive books, the course presentations, the branching scenarios, it really does introduce a lot of complications if things aren't configured correctly. And so if the student is expected to do something to pass a grade back, there's a lot of boxes that need to be checked with these larger content types. So if it's just a matter of like, if you feel comfortable putting a true false question in your course and let that be the standalone thing, then that's all you need, and that's going to be good, because the students are going to have a good experience with that, and you may not need more. So do more a little later. So just keep it simple there. One of the big things that everyone has pushed is that do not use H5P for major assessments, for exams or quizzes, or any kind of high stakes thing where you're going to need data and documentation for it, because just as a technology, it's not that robust as far as reporting and what could stand up to like an audit and a course. So really, it's just for just short lessons, practice I think practicing is like through drag and drops and marking the words, those kind of things are, that really is where H5P shines, and some of the image tools that we have. Um, Feedback, that's, I know this is a rabbit hole in itself. Feedback should be, feedback is instant, and that's one of the really great things about it. And you can configure that feedback to be very specific, but the important thing is that it's immediate, and they can adjust their thinking so they don't learn something incorrectly. And if it's a really important concept, I misspelled self, sorry. So it's just a low risk thing. So like for drag and drops, you can have unlimited attempts. I know that some of the biology, when you have 30 or so items, that would take quite a bit of practice to get those correct. So I think it's a really good thing to practice. And if you just in the line with keeping it simple, verifying that your grades are syncing with the grade book. Even though the majority of it is going to be auto graded, there are still some content types that allow open text entry. I would not use the fill in the blank, because there is that option, and there's another, there's a documentation tool that the students can type in to a box and then save the responses. It can be kind of hard to get to, so anything that requires student input through text, maybe just keep it as an assignment or a discussion forum. But we've just kind of, the path is not very clear about how you as the instructor go to find and retrieve that information from them. So in the case of this interactive book, they will have to actually in two screens, they'll actually see the summary, in which they'll say, well, here's the interactions you've missed and the questions you answered. So, and again, don't worry if some of this isn't, if the dots aren't connecting yet. We'll be happy to kind of walk you through this at a more detailed level. So, as with any lesson, there should be some kind of chance to practice what you've learned here, and the interactive book is kind of a good way to do that. I mean, you can you use it as a knowledge check or a demonstration of those tools. So I know that just regurgitating facts is not necessarily the best way of learning. So it's just the ability to practice what you've learned and to put it into action. So drag the words, really really effective thing. So if to ensure activities are graded in Moodle, you must enable completion tracking. So if you see the hover state will activate there. So the grade book. So you can check that. We've got 2 points, and so the blue arrow will take us to the next one. So H5P activities automatically sync scores to the Moodle gradebook without any additional settings. Anyone want to take this one? True or false?
True.
Oh. Well,
no.
Let's check. So
Oh.
That's sort of the it does without so it's kind of a trick question, and I didn't mean to be misleading, but it does automatically sync scores. What you have to do is whenever you create that activity, whether it's in my courses or whether it's in offline somewhere, you just have to make sure that you set it to so the additional settings refer to the category, the score to pass, those kind of things. So you kind of do a little more follow-up whenever you create the activity. So you can see that I missed that one. So the select the words, this may not be as obvious, but if you can include clear instructions. So we want to see, we read this paragraph and we want to mark the words that are correct. So what what I want to say is that, well, here's things that are correct. And if I read from this, some activities include AI-driven assessments, automated response tracking, and peer grading. Well, as I was saying, there's none of that in H5P. So really, this is one of those things you don't want to select because it's not correct. So here's if we, and you have to select individual words. So that's one of those. You can set this up you don't have to use long sentences. It can be more of a fill in the blank kind of a thing with this, but so anyway, that's another chance to get some practice there. So which content type is best suited for allowing students to explore different points of interest on an image? Any guesses for this one?
Hotspot. Image hotspot.
Yeah, I think that sounds right to me. Yeah. So right, and we finish and we see. So we've gotten 9 out of 10 points. So that was what you would call a question set. So it's really just one unit that you can scroll through each step, and now we can move on to the next one. So create and edit content directly in your course. Which icon should be used? So this blue or black?
That would be the black one, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at this point you have the I think this one's called image choice, where you can put 2 images on there, check, and we got the right answer.
Question for you, Jamie. I know you kind of went over that. Are there any limitations to using one over the other? I know if you take the other one, you're using Lumi, right? But does that have some deficits by taking the shorter path to that?
I think it depends on your needs. I know we're always fighting time, and we don't have a lot of development time. So I think for whichever your workflow is, whichever way it benefits you, the end game is the same. I could create an interactive book in my courses or Lumi, and you wouldn't be able to tell at the end of the day which one I used. What I like, the reason I liked Lumi personally is just that I want to be able to export this. If I want an HTML file, which I will provide after this session, you can just follow that. It creates a URL locally on your system, and you can follow that. You can kind of, it won't track anything, but it's good for just for practicing and doing the thing. So again, there's no really perfect way there. But I think it's just whichever works best for your workflow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, and there's another thing to remember is that Lumi was written and is supported by one person, literally, and it's again, there's not a lot of updates that come with it. It's a bare bones interface, so just kind of be ready to just do some manual work there if without. So the last, so this is the summary slide, and this is specific to the interactive book here. But what you want to do is, so I have 2 of 5 interactions. So I've missed something, so the students can see I have not interacted with all the things, and you can tell that there's a progress bar at the top, and there's a creating. So at some point I've missed one of the interactions. So that so this is kind of where these get complicated. And so if you're using something like an interactive book to take a grade, just make sure that you have more that you have plenty of chances for them to 100% this thing. So you can tell over here that the choose something wasn't like I didn't finish some of the interactions. So, and this could actually get in the way of a student. I think it was, I didn't go through the course presentation was what it was. So, and you wouldn't put that much into a course anyway. So just for, as far as the summary screen, you'll see this at the end of the course presentation or any of the others. So, that is, so that was just a really quick and dirty overview of H5P. There's a lot of things we can talk about with it, but I'd like to hear, in our last 10 minutes, is there anything else I can go over, or any ideas that you have that we can kind of bounce back and forth? I'd be happy to discuss that and kind of leave it up to the group too. So just feel free to pop in with any questions that you have.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question for you. So going back to the beginning, you said for the schedule showing the PowerPoint at the bottom and then going over to H5P, and then it said something about Camastelia and then Adobe C. Can you actually just show me that graph again?
Sure. Is my screen still sharing?
Yeah.
Um, again, so this is
Adobe,
yeah,
the Adobe
Captivate.
Captivate. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're doing, this is just a really just an informal survey of some of the tools that we use here. We don't really use Articulate Storyline or Captivate, but I just wanted to demonstrate. So if you've ever taken like any kind of corporate training, like a Title IX training or anything where it's sort of PowerPoint plus, it's still slide based, but there's interactions, and you can have sliders and dials and a lot of things. So it was likely built with Storyline. So that is the number one tool, and probably the world for building e-learning and kind of those. And Adobe is really not far behind. They've both been around a long time. As far as Camtasia, was really about 80% video editing tool, video post-production, but you can actually add interactive elements into that. You can add quizzes, and it's actually a really robust program. If you've ever spent time with Camtasia, I think it's every minute you spend with it is time well spent, because it can be a really handy thing. But it's complex. It's complex. It's not something that you can just pick up and use. And that's where I think H5P really.
Yeah, I know that.
So, yeah. So that was a good question. Thanks. I wasn't sure whether to put this graphic in there, but just to know where.
Yeah, the cost and the usage, and like I know about those parts. I was just curious as to the reasoning and see if I missed something, because I use Postdoc a lot because I can add captionings in the PowerPoint and have that phone interaction. It's a little expensive monthly. It's $44 a month, but I do use it. Sometimes it's on or off. I use that. So I will be trying H5P. I'll look around. I've been taking notes. I'll see if I can configure some of this stuff. And maybe if there's some questions, I'll ask. I
Yeah,
don't know.
please do. And it is possible to take a PowerPoint that you've already created, and you can turn that into an H5P. Uh, it, it's a little labor intensive, but if you're looking for a solution that's free and that you want to add questions to your PowerPoint slide, that's a good way. You'll have to kind of take each slide, download it as an image, and then put it into H5P. So you can kind of determine whether you're going to get a return on your investment that way. But again, so with the H5P Content Quest, that's what I had to do. I outsourced all my own graphics and created those, and then imported those in. So it was a lot of work, and I'm not sure it was worth it, but I learned a lot in the process. That's the important part, right? Any other questions? Anything I can?
Yeah. I was actually wondering if I were to take a picture of the question and then just throw it on to my already PowerPoint, or do I have to type out each and every question? Just throwing it up there, it saves us all time just to be able to take a picture of the question.
So
like for true or false, things like that, the choices.
Are you talking about in terms of creating the H5P course presentation and then putting the questions on top of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
So it's like an overlay thing. So you wouldn't need to take a picture of anything. So if you have a PowerPoint slide, you can save that as like a JPEG image. And then you'd have the base like a background image. And then you can see H5P as the overlay on top of that. And that's where the questions would come in. So if in got a minute or so, I'm gonna climb in there real quick and show you.
And just real quick, I'm going to take myself off mute. If anybody needs to jump off the call, we just want to thank you for being on, and feel free to fill out that eval form that I put in the chat so that we can get feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So let me kind of scroll to the bottom. So you can see that this is kind of all the configuration that needs to happen. So the timeline, a lot of fields to fill in, but again, so down here. So here's kind of the format for the course presentation. You have the background, which you can add. So it's actually I imported this image into H5P, and then as you go through each slide, you can navigate through like you would any other PowerPoint. But if you had this row up top to where you can actually put in. So these are all anchors. So I would say, okay, for sequence content, I put in an anchor that goes to slide this or that. But you can also put in questions directly over this. So that's how the overlay works. So PowerPoint as a background, and then H5P as an overlay. Again, if you want to come by the TLC and schedule some time, we'll be happy to kind of take you through this, and just whatever you need. So.
Yeah, I have a paper. There's everything there on my paper. It's the old-fashioned way. So I would actually have to throw it up there and upload it. So I have to manually put it. Because the question for doing that on each slide and transferring it, I don't know. Because I truly do just write everything out. It's just a choice, an option. A real test or an exam, I don't know. I would have to see and practice it. We'll see.
Yeah, and
if you have any questions, go ahead to turn it to you.
So anyway, again, thank you for all your time today. I appreciate you being with me. And again, this is really just kind of intended to be a conversation starter. Let's just come at me, with some ideas, and I'm happy to kind of brainstorm that with you. So anyway, if no other questions, I'm sure I'll see you all somewhere on the flip side. So thanks again for joining us, everyone.
Thank you, Jamie.
There you go.
Have a good day.
Same to y'all.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.